All right, everyone. Thanks everyone for showing up on time. We're just going to wait for a couple more folks and get started.
Excuse me.
Yo,
Hey, there he is. Just waiting to confirm that. So we're going to start recording these, and our friends at Cityroots are going to help with the recording. Just want to make sure that that's good to go, and then we'll get started. Great. Even better. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, apparently. Amazing. Thank you. All right, so we'll kick it off this week. We're excited to have some special guests this time. I think, part of the goal of this AMA every week is to give you a quick update about what we've been up to, which we also do post in product updates. But we also want to make this a place for everyone to learn and to meet other members of the community that are also trying to make this whole space a better place. And Cityroots are definitely working on something interesting, so we'll bring them up. So this week, I get this what we call the tech industry. You have to have things that tab or state that's in the specific make things not yeah, Josh, I don't know you want to pronounce here, has been instrumental in that, as well as Dr. Hodes. So thanks to the team for getting all this stuff out. Next week, we're going to start looking at some new potential developments. We'll share more on Monday. We have a lot of exciting ideas of the types of things we can build on top of what we have today without taking on too much more technical debt. So we'll let you know on Monday. And definitely, if you want to ask any questions or make any suggestions, there'll be some time at the end of the AMA for anyone to ask questions or drop them into the general chat. Dork, did you have anything that you wanted to share with the community?
Yeah, guys. Apologies, I've kind of been under the weather. Later half of this week, but we do have a 10 spot giveaway access going on. It's on Twitter. I'll post a link here in the Discord as well. Spread it like wildfire to anybody that you think would benefit from using the platform. Um, from that, I don't really have anything else more than that, Chris.
Great. Well, that's the good news. That's all we want to hear is we're giving out more spots, and definitely stabilizing the system is, one of the reasons we're bringing people in slowly is we want to make sure that this thing doesn't come crashing down if everybody shows up at the front door at the same time. So appreciate everyone's patience as we're opening up as quickly as we can. Cool. So with that, would love to move into our conversation with Cityroots. On the stage now, we have Joseph, who's the founder of Cityroots. Did we want to bring up the other members of the team as well?
Yeah, Switch is in here.
Cool. Cool. I just invited Switch. Great. So while he's coming up. Uh, the thing that was really interesting about what you're working on is we've at Curio we've been very interested in how to kind of score projects. Right, there's so much noise in the space. What's good? What's bad? What does good even mean? What does bad mean? Uh, and we can use data to try to infer that. With Curio, we're doing a lot of that. How much can we just infer from implicit behavior that people are taking, right? Like if everybody's selling or if everybody's buying, how can we capture that to tell a story about potentially the quality or the trajectory of a project? But what's really interesting about what you're doing is that it's more subjective, right? And you're asking the people to review uh, different projects to generate a score. And so I think that that's really interesting. But before we dive into that, why don't you start off by just telling us about what Cityroots is, how you started, and kind of introduce yourself and the team?
Yeah, thanks, man. Um, I guess I'll start out by saying, I'm really excited for what you guys are doing as well, and excited to be here. Yeah, my name's Joseph Yell. City Roots was founded just out of so we noticed we knew that we wanted to do something in the space, and so when we kind of sat down as a team, we were like, okay, what do we want to do? There's like 13 members initially here, and we all sat down and we were like, okay, hey, let's build a game. And then we were like, oh well, let's build a metaverse. And then we're like, yeah, everyone's already doing that. We don't really want to do that. What's something that's like really wrong in the space? What's something that, how can we better this space? And so we all sat down, and then one day it was like, well, there's a lot of scams. What's something we can do that's going to actually like help people that are getting into the space? And so that's kind of what led us down this path of, well, eventually we want to, compete against OpenSea. Okay, well then what's phase one? How do we prevent scams and whatnot there first? And so we said, okay, let's just start off with reviews. Let's, and several of us have a background um, in running these kinds of anti-bias surveys and creating those kinds of platforms for enterprise organizations like Verizon, Comcast, Cisco, Salesforce, and then so that's my background, um, and building and selling companies and whatnot, and so yeah, that's kind of what led us to where we are today. Um,
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. We're trying to get Switch up here. I invited you to speak.
and
I'm not sure what else I can do, but Dork, I don't know if you want to try to give him a hand in getting up on stage.
and then Baron
Um,
just showed up as well. If you want to invite Baron up.
Great, will do. Also invited.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that definitely makes a lot of sense. There's definitely a lot of trust that needs to be built in the system, and you see companies like OpenSea adding the blue check mark, and they're adding different kind of labels on projects to try to let you know which ones are legit or not. Um, and certainly the power of the voice of the people is one way to go about that. And I wanted to kind of share a screenshot with folks in the general chat just to get a sense of like what the survey looks like. I found, as I mentioned on our call, like I thought you really chiseled it down to a good set of questions to keep it simple enough and clear. And I'd be curious to hear about your experience. Like, how did you come to this set of questions for the reviews, and what did you learn along the way? I just dropped it in the general chat, so if anyone's curious, and sorry for people that are listening later. Um, but why don't you talk us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the survey itself took probably 3 months to create. Um, it certainly went through its iterations as with all things. Um, and so the first thing, so we sat together as a group, and quite a few of us have been in the NFT space. Well, no one's been in the NFT space long. But in relativity to others, we've been here for some of us. So some of us on the team have CryptoPunks, and and I've been here since February, which in this world is forever. So,
Right.
um, but anyways, we sat down and I said, again, being an analytics guy, this is my thing. And I said, okay, well, what makes up an NFT? And so we said, okay, the three main categories are community, utility, and art. Everything can be digested between those three categories. Doesn't matter if it's music, if it's real world art, or um, anything. Anything can be like subjected to those three categories. And then we said, okay, what do we care about the most? What creates a successful project? What's the top three things? And so we just kind of wrote down lists of all the different questions that we would ask, and then we started to just define which ones would truly have the biggest impact from a priority perspective, and how can we condense any of the questions that we came up with into just as small of a question as possible to make it as simple and as unbiased as possible. And that's what led us with where we are today, and these 9 questions that dictate, what is a project. There is a 10th question, which isn't on this screen, which is blue chip or not. So it's just a yes, no. Do you believe this project is blue chip? Um, and that's important to know. So that's the 10th question.
The rare 10th question. Cool. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, so how's it going? How many? I know you have a number of projects and reviews coming in. Can you give us a sense of like the level of data you've got so far?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll stress that we're not live yet. So we're launching on January 1st with the vault. We did a data push, meaning like we went to Google Sheets and put together just a really basic web form of what you're looking at now. Um, and we collected over 3,000 reviews of across, I believe, um, 200 210 projects or something along those lines, and across I believe like 194 users, something along those lines. So, and that's before we've even launched anything. That's just on Google. So that was pretty exciting. So once we actually have something people can like a real user interface and experience that is much simpler to navigate, I'm super excited for what it's going to bring to the space. Um, yeah, my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely appreciate a good MVP. Using the existing tools to try to validate what you're doing. A lot of
Yeah.
respect for that. Uh, so, one question that comes to mind is the nature of spam and the nature of scams and the kind of level of energy that these different projects, organizations are putting into kind of gaming all of these systems, into tricking people and all of those things. How do you ensure the kind of, I guess, the balance and the reliability of these scores? For example, if someone really just wants to like do a raid on this and like bump up their reviews, how do you protect against that?
Great question. So there's a few parts to this. The first is, um, what deters scammers? Difficulty and cost. So if you can make it really expensive to scam, then they're not going to want to scam. If the value of the scam itself outweighs the benefit, then they're not going to scam, right? And so what we've done, the initial like first layer of protection, um, is saying that no one can write a review unless your MetaMask has over $300 of transactions. I'm sorry, $300 of transaction fees. Let me be a little bit more specific. So it means you've had to do several on the Ethereum network. You've had to do a little bit in order to get to earn the right to do reviews. Now, as we go to layer 2, this is going to change. We got to figure that out, right? But as of right now, that's where we're standing. Until we can get some kind of machine learning up and running for that. But on the layer 2, so protecting, that's like our biggest protection layer. There are other layers that we're integrating that we're not going to be releasing how we're maintaining those, simply because we don't want, once the information's out there, then people know how to get around it. or can at least attempt to navigate it. Um, so we're not releasing that structure and basically our analysis bot um, and the
Right.
criteria there. So
Could it? Uh, are there any plans, or have you considered potentially um, normalizing, the score, or weighting it by potentially the actual activity within the project itself? So using more kind of objective data to potentially flag things like, well, this has 1,000 reviews, but it only has like 5 transactions in this collection. This seems off.
yeah, I mean those. It's a phenomenal idea. I think we'll have to identify those things if and when they come up. Um, we've done what we can for version one, and we have attempted to identify problems before they come up to the best of our ability. But things like that, I'm hoping that won't happen. But to your point, like it absolutely could. Just given the state. One project goes, "Hey, if you want to get on the whitelist, you got to go vote for blue chip on the vault." And it's one of those things where all of the reviews are made public, and everything's API first, so everyone knows what everyone's voting for. And if we end up seeing that kind of stuff, well, we're just going to disable your vault profile, and which is going to disable your ability to interact with our marketplace, interact with making like everything about the vault is going to make your life simpler from just understanding project interactions. Um, we've got a lot of functions coming on that front, not just about reviews. So it would be detrimental to um, to the individuals themselves to get into that methodology, and they won't even really know that they're just going to get banned. Yeah, and then they'll have to contact support.
Right, right. Yeah, it's definitely the challenge. Once you bring kind of humans into the mix, you're kind of faced
Yeah.
with these types of challenges, and it's you can't avoid it. So totally understand. Not an easy question, and it seems like you've thought about it. So appreciate you sharing that.
There is
Um,
one more
yeah,
thing I'll add there. Sorry if you don't mind.
go for it.
We have we have a group of curators, and so these are individuals that are NFT experts. And the curator's job is to integrate not only with the projects, so like they gather all the information from the projects, they approve a project before it goes live on the vault, and then they approve a profile, which means they're in contact with someone at that project. Okay. Um, and I mean, it's just due diligence, right? To make sure like they're truly the owner of that project, and they're allowed to represent that project. So, but after that due diligence, part of that is, hey, if we see you taking these actions of saying like, hey, everyone go vote for blue chip, and we'll give you like that's your chance to raffle. Like, I'm okay with everyone saying, yeah, go vote for blue chip. Nothing wrong there. But the moment you start rewarding people for voting for blue chip, that's when we have problems. And so that's when we'll kick you off the vault.
Yeah, that gives me another thought. Like, I don't know if you know, is it the site Metacritic or something? It shows kind of reviewer, like everyone is a reviewer, and they're all the reviews, but then it shows you the critics reviews. So is there a potential
Yeah,
to like have another layer where potentially,
absolutely
like,
on the
I
roadmap.
want to the community can nominate like a representative, if you will, a curator, and then you could show the curator's score versus the total score or something like that.
100%. So we've got a lot about this. I wish Alandria was here. She's writing up all this content right now, actually, as far as like all the processes and documentation around it. But effectively, the idea is to create curator profiles. So, because every curator is different, every expert is a different, and there's just so many things you can be expert in, right? Security, or play to earn games, or gambling, or whatever, right? Like, there's so many different ways, or art, right? And different kinds of art. So um, creating these personas, if you will, for curators, and then giving certain projects based on their tags to be having a curator review in the future is absolutely on our roadmap. It's not something we're going to go live with at the beginning, but we will get there eventually. It just takes time and obviously trust, and we need to make sure that we've got the right people on board in order to make those reviews. And so that they're not, again, it has to be unbiased at the end of the day. We have to be able to say that. Um, and then secondarily is um, we have to we everything well and everything's free, right? That's the other point. So like
Mhm.
we have to be able to afford it somehow, because nothing is truly free. So how do we do it as a community? Well, it all has to get paid for through our monetization model of the marketplace. So there's all balance and scale that we have to go through in order to get to where we want to go.
100%. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I want to make some space for folks to ask questions. So if you're in the AMA and you want to raise your hand, we're happy to bring you up to the stage. Otherwise, drop some questions in general chat if you got them. And also, if anyone from Curio team has questions, Dork or Sean, and also it would be good to hear from Baron and Switch too, and get some additional perspectives from your team. So we do have one question from No Fiat Only. How would you define a blue chip project?
Yeah, great question. Blue chip is it a project you believe has long-term capability and success to, do you believe the project's going to be around in 2 years effectively? Like, do you believe they're going to be able to be successful in the roadmap that they have and their beliefs as an organization and collection?
Is there a certain kind of monetary threshold as well, like things like Bored Apes and Punks? The
I
floor
don't
is
believe
really
so.
high.
I don't think that dictates a blue chip. Not at least from a definition of blue chip in and of itself. Um, Success is variable, right? Floor prices just dictate um, traditionally hype and awareness, right? Not necessarily success.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good perspective. I saw you unmuted, Dork. Did you have a follow up?
No, no, no. I was just gonna pretty much backdoor everything that Joe just said.
Great. Alrighty. So turning back then to general chat. If you have any other questions, please drop them in. I saw Billy was typing. He's thinking about something. He's not sure if he should ask maybe, but I think he should. No dumb questions.
Don't want to wake up his other half there.
Hmm.
Hey, while we've got a second, everybody here, if you haven't already, please check out the community announcements. We've got a survey in there about your experience so far. If you do have access, we'd love your feedback, and it only helps us shape Curio better for you guys. So if you could just fill that out for us, we'd appreciate it.
Good call. Yeah. In the spirit of reviews, we definitely need yours. Um, well, while we're waiting for any other questions to come through, how can our community and listeners here today get involved with Cityroots, participate or support? Like, how do they go about that?
Great question. Um, so actually today, the biggest thing that people can do, in my opinion, is right now if you jump in our server into the Cityroots server and just get the citizen role, right? Just get to level 2 through chat. Um, it takes like 30 minutes of chat in order to do. We're launching a token, and that token is based on engagement, so engage to earn. And if you're in the server before the end of the month, we're taking a snapshot and we're effectively giving everyone a bunch of tokens dependent on their roles and whatnot. So it ends up being a much better deal from now until the end of the month, because starting on January 1st, it's all engaged to earn. So get a little bit more bang for your buck, if you will, just by 30 minutes of engagement in the server. So
Is this what you mean by community as a currency?
Yeah. Current. That's a whole nother topic.
I know for next week, for next week, but I'm putting the pieces together. That's one thing I noticed in your Discord is you have all the levels, and I wasn't quite sure what what does that lead up to. So that's a good teaser for what we could dive into next time. As as Alexis Ohanian says, like community is the new kind of MVP. Minimum viable community is going to be what you need in Web3, and that's one of the things that I love about this space is that you kind of build the interest in the group first, and then together, uh, in whatever capacity anyone can offer, you build the product. Whereas in Web 2 is very much build the product, have some big splash launch, and hope people kind of show up. And so this kind of flips it on its head. And very excited to learn more about how you're thinking about it, because I know we can do a lot more, in our Discord, and especially as it relates to rewarding folks who are more engaged. That's something we're more naturally inclined to do than people are just dropping in um, for just a quick something. When someone's more engaged in the community, it creates, as we like to say, the rising tide floats all boats, right? Which actually leads to this other question here, which is, how did you come up with the name Cityroots?
Switch. You want to talk about that?
I can give a try. Um, we we came up with Cityroots after coming up with the term NF tree, and Cityroots brought us a whole lot deeper. Uh, am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so we came up with this idea of a tree first of NF tree, and the name ended up being taken kind of at the last second, and so we decided to take.
Literally 8 hours after I was about to buy the domain, it got bought. I saw it, it was
I hate when that
available,
happens.
and I was like, yeah, I'll buy it later tonight. I came back 8 hours later and it was bought by NF Trees.
Yeah, and it worked out really nice, at least in my opinion, because City Roots goes a whole lot deeper than where we would have ended up had we gone with just the NF tree model, and we had uh, I still would love to see the model that we had come up with originally come through. It was a little bit complex, and I don't think I've seen anybody else yet kind of pull it off. I don't think we should head in that direction for this conversation. But for City Roots specifically, we came up with this idea of a tree and a city, and how the relationship of these two are kind of like yin yang, where they're like self feeding, and the idea came from rooting in to this like nature epic proportions, ancient sort of wisdom with that comes from like the lungs of the forest, the lungs of our planet, and how that can breathe life into the city where most of the human population sort of gets together and makes a bustling, like uh, amount of noise or direction, and the life that most of the human population exists in, at least in the modern day. And so City Roots is kind of a culmination of some really old concepts that are juxtaposed against modern times.
Love it. Love it. It it reminds me of a passage I read out of the Secret Life of Trees. And if you haven't read the book, you definitely should. It talks about how forests have deep networks underneath the surface and in the roots, and they communicate and uh, through that. And so if there is a tree that's not in as fortunate of a position, that might not be getting enough sunlight or bad soil or what have you, uh, the trees actually kind of democratically distribute resources beneath the surface so that they can build a strong canopy above and create a vibrant ecosystem for the entire forest. So it reminds me of that. Love it.
Thank you for the
So
reference. I haven't read that book yet. I look forward to reading it. And as far
uh,
as
ask yourself for
establishing,
the
yeah, as far as establishing structure for an ecosystem, I'm pretty sure Cityroots is setting ourselves up with the vault quite nicely for rooting in for the long term.
awesome. Great. Well, we are coming up on time. We've been trying to keep these short because we know people are busy and try to make it dense with information, which I think this was. So thank you all for sharing about City Roots. Bill asked, how we might see a collab working out down the line, and we're this is kind of it's working out right now. We're talking, we're figuring out ways that we can support each other. Our data is complementary, and I think so are our communities. So we're going to continue the conversation. I'll be joining next week, I think, on the City Roots AMA as well to talk further about this stuff. So please tune in again if you want to follow this conversation, and we'll definitely keep everybody posted. Next week we will be doing a giveaway as well with the City Roots community after the AMA, and Dork will be following up on that, making sure that you all have the opportunity to get in on the products. So thanks everybody for the time.
Yeah, appreciate you, everyone.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity, guys. We appreciate it.